Today is June the 13th. Today, we see the death of Saul. As you read through the Bible in a year, please read 1 Chronicles 8 through 10. 1 Chronicles 8 and 9 finish the genealogies at the beginning of Chronicles. Chapter 10 tells us of King Saul. Now, it omits all but the very last chapter of 1 Samuel. It omits the story of Saul's rise, of his sins. It omits the story of David and Goliath, Saul pursuing David. All of that, it simply lays aside. Not because it considers that unimportant, but because it knows that you already have 1 Samuel. Instead, Chronicles focuses on the death of King Saul, how he died in battle, how his 3 sons fell first, then Saul and his armor bearer fell on their swords. Tells of the Philistines stripping the bodies of their armor, cutting off the head of Saul and attaching the head of Saul to the temple of Dagon. It also tells of the faithful of David's army rescuing the bodies of Saul and his 3 sons, taking them back to give them an honorable burial. And then, at the very end, 1 Chronicles 10:13, so Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. He failed to obey the Lord's command. He even consulted a medium instead of asking the Lord for guidance. So the Lord killed him and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse. Enjoy today as you read Chronicles 8 to 10.
Benjamin's first son was Bela, the second was Ashbel, the third was Ahara, the fourth was Noah, and the fifth was Rapha. The sons of Bela were Adar, Gera, Abihud, Abishua, Naaman, Ahoa, Gera, Shaphupan, and Huram. The sons of Ehud, leaders of the clans living at Geba, were exiled to Manahath. Ehud's sons were Naaman, Ahijah, and Gera. Gera, who led them into exile, was the father of Uzzah and Ahihud. After Shaharaim divorced his wives Husham and Bera, he had children in the land of Moab. Hodesh, his new wife, gave birth to Jodab, Zibiah, Mesha, Malcolm, Jeush, Sakiah, and Mirma. These sons all became the leaders of clans. Shaharaim's wife Husham had already given birth to Abitub and Elpaal. The sons of Elpaal were Eber, Misham, Shemid, who built the towns of Ono and Lod and their nearby villages. Beriah and Shema, they were the leaders of the clans living in Ajalon, and they drove out the inhabitants of Gath. Ahio, Shashak, Jeremoth, Zebediah, Arid, Eder, Michael, Ishpa, and Johah were the sons of Beriah. Zebediah, Meshullam, Hishkai, Heber, Ishmerai, Isliah, and Jobab were the sons of Elpaal. Jacob, Zichri, Zebdi, Eliani, Zilathai, Eliel, Adiah, Beriah, and Shimrath were the sons of Shimei. Ishpan, Eber, Eliel, Abdon, Zikri, Hanan, Hananiah, Elam, and Tathijah, Ephtaiah, and Penuel were the sons of Shashak. Shamsharai, Shariah, Sherahiah, Athaliah, Jerushiah, Elijah, and Zikri were the sons of Jeroham. These were the leaders of the ancestral clans. They were listed in their genealogical records, and they all lived in Jerusalem. Jeiel, the father of Gibeon, lived in the town of Gibeon. His wife's name was Maacah, and his oldest son was named Abdon. Jeiel's other sons were Zur, Kish, Baal, Ner, Nadab, Gedor, Ahio, Zechariah, and Mikloth, who was the father of Shimeon. All these families lived near each other in Jerusalem. Ner was the father of Kish. Kish was the father of Saul. Saul was the father of Jonathan, Malchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbaal. Jonathan was the father of Merib-Baal. Merib-Baal was the father of Micah. Micah was the father of Pithon, Melech, Teriah, and Ahaz. Ahaz was the father of Jada. Jada was the father of Elameth, Asmabeth, and Zimri. Zimri was the father of Moza. Moza was the father of Bineah. Bineah was the father of Rephaiah. Rephaiah was the father of Eliashah. Eliashah was the father of Azel. Azel had 6 sons: Ezrakim, Bakru, Ishmael, Sheriah, Obadiah, and Hanan. These were the sons of Ezriel. These were the sons of Azel. Azel's brother Eshek had 3 sons. The first was Ulam, the second was Jeush, and the third was Eliphalet. Ulam's sons were all mighty warriors and expert archers. They had many sons and grandsons, 150 in all. All these were descendants of Benjamin. So all Israel was listed in the genealogical record in the book of the kings of Israel. The people of Judah were exiled to Babylon because they were unfaithful to the Lord. The first of these exiles to return to their property in their former towns were the priests, Levites, temple servants, and the Israelites. Some of the people from the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, Ephraim, and Manasseh came and settled in Jerusalem. One family that returned was that of Uthai, son of Ammihud, son of Omri, son of Imri, son of Bani, a descendant of Perez, son of Judah. Others returned from the Shilonite clan, including Asaiah the oldest and his sons. From the Zerahite clan, Jewel returned with his relatives. In all, 690 families from the tribe of Judah returned. From the tribe of Benjamin came Salu from Meshullam, son of Hodaviah, son of Hashanuah, Ibniah, son of Jeroham, Elah, son of Uzai, son of Mikri, and Meshullam, son of Shephatiah, son of Reuel, son of Ibnijah. These men were all leaders of clans, and they were listed in their genealogical records. In all, 956 families from the tribe of Benjamin returned. Among the priests who returned were Jedaiah, Jehoiarib, Jachin, Azariah, son of Hilkiah, son of Meshullam, son of Zadok, son of Meraioth, son of Ahitub. Azariah was the chief officer of the house of God. Other returning priests were Adaiah, son of Jeroham, son of Pashur, son of Milchijah, and Maaseiah, son of Adiel, son of Jezurah, son of Meshullam, son of Meshillemith, son of Imri. In all, 1,760 priests returned. They were heads of clans and very able men. They were responsible for ministering at the house of God. The Levites who returned were Shemaiah, son of Hashab, son of Azrikam, son of Hashabiah, a descendant of Merari, Bakbakar, Hirish, Galil, Mattaniah, son of Micah, son of Zikri, son of Asaph, Obadiah, son of Shemaiah, son of Galil, son of Jeduthun, and Berechiah, son of Asa, son of Elkanah, who lived in the area of Netophah. The gatekeepers who returned were Shallum, Akub, Talmon, Ahiman, and their relatives. Shallum was the chief gatekeeper. Prior to this time, they were responsible for the king's gate on the east side. These men served as gatekeepers for the camps of the Levites. Shallum was the son of Kor, a descendant of Abiasaph, from the clan of Korah. He and his relatives, the Korahites, were responsible for guarding the entrance to the sanctuary, just as their ancestors had guarded the tabernacle in the camp of the Lord. Phinehas, son of Eleazar, had been in charge of the gatekeepers in earlier times, and the Lord had been with him. And later, Zechariah, son of Meshelemiah, was responsible for guarding the entrance to the tabernacle. In all, there were 212 gatekeepers in those days, and they were listed according to their genealogies in their villages. David and Samuel the seer had appointed their ancestors because they were reliable men. These gatekeepers and their descendants, by their divisions, were responsible for guarding the entrance to the house of the Lord when that house was a tent. The gatekeepers were stationed on all 4 sides, east, west, north, and south. Their relatives in the village came regularly to share their duties for 7-day periods. The 4 chief gatekeepers, all Levites, were trusted officials, for they were responsible for the rooms and treasuries at the house of God. They would spend the night around the house of God, since it was their duty to guard it, and open the gates every morning. Some of the gatekeepers were assigned to care for the various articles used in worship. They checked them in and out to avoid any loss. Others were responsible for furnishings, the items in the sanctuary, and the supplies, such as choice flour, wine, olive oil, frankincense, and spices. But it was the priest who blended the spices. Mattaniah, a Levite, and the oldest son of Shulem, the Korathite, was entrusted with baking the bread used in offerings, and some members of the clan of Kohath were in charge preparing the bread to be set on the table each Sabbath day. The musicians, all prominent Levites, lived at the temple. They were exempt from their responsibilities since they were on duty at all hours. All these men lived in Jerusalem. They were the heads of the Levite families and were listed as prominent leaders in their genealogical records. Jeiel, the father of Gibeon, lived in the town of Gibeon. His wife's name was Maacah, and his oldest son was named Abdon. Jeiel's other sons were Zur, Kish, Baal, Ner, Nadab, Gedor, Ahio, Zechariah, and Mikloth. Mikloth was the father of Shimeam. All these families lived near each other in Jerusalem. Ner was the father of Kish. Kish was the father of Saul. Saul was the father of Jonathan, Malchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbaal. Jonathan was the father of Merib-Baal. Merib-Baal was the father of Micah. The sons of Micah were Pithon, Melech, Terah, and Ahaz. Ahaz was the father of Jada. Jada was the father of Alameth, Asmabeth, and Zimri. Zimri was the father of Moza. Moza was the father of Bineah. Bineah's son was Rephaiah. Rephaiah's son was Eleasa. Eleasa's son was Azel. Azel had 6 sons whose names were Ezracham, Bokeru, Ishmael, Shuriah, Obadiah, and Hanan. These were the sons of Azel.
Now the Philistines attacked Israel, and the men of Israel fled before them. Many were slaughtered on the slopes of Mount Gilboa. The Philistines closed in on Saul and his sons, and they killed 3 of his sons, Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua. The fight grew very fiercely around Saul, and the Philistine archers caught up with him and wounded him. Saul groaned to his armor-bearer, "Take your sword and kill me before these pagan Philistines come to taunt and torture me." But his armor-bearer was afraid and would not do it. So Saul took his own sword and fell on it. When his armor-bearer realized that Saul was dead, he fell on his own sword and died. So Saul and his 3 sons died there together, bringing his dynasty to an end. When all the Israelites in Jezreel Valley saw that their army had fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their towns and fled. So the Philistines moved in and occupied their towns. The next day, when the Philistines went out to strip the dead, they found the bodies of Saul and his sons on Mount Gilboa. So they stripped off Saul's armor and cut off his head. They proclaimed the good news of Saul's death before their idols and to the people throughout the land of Philistia. They placed his armor in the temple of their gods, and they fastened his head to the temple of Dagon. But when everyone in Jabesh-Gilead heard about everything the Philistines had done to Saul, all their mighty warriors brought the bodies of Saul and his sons back to Jabesh. Then they buried their bones beneath the great tree at Jabesh, and they fasted for 7 days. So Saul died because he was unfaithful to the Lord. He failed to obey the Lord's command, and he even consulted a medium instead of asking the Lord for guidance. So the Lord killed him and turned the kingdom over to David, son of Jesse.
Scripture reading from the New Living Translation by Emily Herrera. On Thursdays, New Hope Church releases the sermon from the previous Sunday. Just the sermon. You can find it on New Hope's podcast. Look for 888-HOPE, or you can find it on our YouTube channel, New Hope Church Greenwood IN. Enjoy last Sunday's sermon. Tomorrow, we see that David builds the kingdom.